as per my tradition, to go through a V deck profile once per month. After seeing that the Oddmount video did really well in a short period of time, I decided to film this a bit ahead of time, and today we're going back to Nova Grapplers. It's time for the Raizers. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Raizers4 here. Today I am back to cover Raizers in V Nova Grappler. Nothing about this sentence sounds like something I would say in 2024, but very frankly, because you guys still love V content, it's very clear from my last, I don't know, I'm releasing this in June, I think, and every month so far, every one of my V deck profiles I put out have done really well, and some of them do even better than the D ones, which is, quite scary to me. But it shows that, there is clearly an audience. A lot of my VDEP profiles from last year are also still going through. So I just want to say thank you to all of you who are, supporting and sharing it, giving likes, sharing, subscribing. Hit the subscribe button, it really helps. Or even joining my channel membership, which is, down below. It does help. It does give me, a sort of motivation or reason to keep doing this, because very frankly, it's very tiring for me to take time out of my work schedules and my days to not only test for one format, to test for two. There's no point testing for premium, but at least for V, it takes time for me to go through. Today though, I didn't really take that much testing because this is a deck I've been playing for quite a few years now, and I've realized I've just never had the chance to cover it. So since this month is a free slot before any other V promos or a V call for this year or the strategy presentation, I've decided to actually do this. It's Raizers, but with a twist. The twist is that now I'm playing Perfect Raizer inside. Now, for those of you who have no idea why or no idea who this card is, Perfect Raizer is like the very first V boss we have for Nova Grappler. Some would accredit him to be the main failure for Excel Year 1. And for good reason. However, I think we've reached a point where we can now backwards innovate for all the stuff that came out in 2018. And this is one of them. I've really enjoyed, or at least I've always found it kind of weird, that the Perfect Raizer deck is good for restanding, but can't get advantage well, can't get, stats well, it can't do a lot of things well. It's like a really big fat finisher, but it doesn't do a lot. Whereas the ultimates from V Call, I believe it's V Call 2, the ultimates from V Call do the exact opposite. They gain so much advantage, they have very good resource management, they put up whiteboards, they have good card draw, very good sustained power for the hand, but yet they have no real way of finishing the game, which has always surprised me. Why? But it's almost as if these two were fated to meet. Kamui and Legion did play all the Raizers together, so why can't I, right? So that's really the premise behind this deck. It's not fully Raizers though, there is some generics in here, because this is Nova Grappler, but I've tried my best to be not only as fruitful as possible, but to be as efficient as possible when it comes to, the naming scheme and how this deck works. I'm really proud of this. This is a deck I play quite a lot when I just want to have fun, but I wouldn't obviously bring this to a V tournament because, the second you fight something like a Luat, you just lose, right? But if you fight anyone who's of normal caliber or just wants to have fun, I think this is by far one of the most fun decks I've played in V, even this year. So let's get right into it now that I've talked about it at great length. Our great trees, we have 4 copies of Ultimate Raizer Mega Flare, and then we have 4 copies of Perfect Raizer. So it's a very simple list for the top half, because the rest of the core is where all the spice comes in, right? So I'm going to talk about Perfect Raizer first, since he's probably the one you are least familiar with, and it's obviously been a while. When this unit attacks, you Counter Blast 2, stand 2 of your rear guards in the front row. Yeah, if you want to know why this skill sounds so familiar, I'd like to say hello to Rotovisor. How are you, Rotovisor? I hope you're doing well. And I'm not doing a Rotovisor deck profile, unless, I get donated money or free cards. There's no way in hell you're convincing me to drop 1,000 yen on a deck that bad. No way. But his second skill is that when his attack hits, if you have a card with Raizer in its card name in your soul, counter charge 1, choose one of your units, and it gains 5. So it's really weird that this guy has a counter blast 2 skill, which by the way is really expensive, unless you're back in 2011. And then of course you have the second skill, which is on hit you counter charge 1, and you give a unit 5k. How exactly are you planning to hit an attack with a 12k guy? Like, I like to know how this is happening, right? Which is why V Nova's Wave 1 was complete dog shit. But the thing is that the really fun thing to me is that it says when it hits, which means you can swing this at a rear guard if you really wanted to. And that's going to give you a hint as to how we are actually playing this deck. So if you actually swing and hit a rear guard, you still get a counter charge. And when it attacks, it doesn't have to attack a Vanguard either. It can attack a rear guard, you count +2 instead. So even if your center column is actually a really, really, really weak number, you actually stand to gain a lot if, you can use your Vanguard column to kind of deal with the rear guards, and then your Vanguard will actually deal with, the one that actually matters, which is the rear guards. The rear guards will actually do the job in finishing the game for you, which they actually do. And I know I complained about numbers for Perfect Raizer, but you will see later on, there is a card that does help with numbers, but a lot of people have forgotten, so I'll cover him in a bit. But the one who is more iconic, the Vanguard Zero Savior, and the guy who I literally cannot stop thinking about how they nerfed him from the anime into the OG show, this is Ultimate Raizer Mega Flare. I am a huge Raizer fanboy. I've played Raizers since the comic booster, and I've also played Raizers when they came out in BT16, right? All the way till now. And even though Raizers have been good, I just really enjoy it. And this guy, with his kick-ass art combined with dual flare, is amazing. And their skills are really fun too. At the end of the battle, then you rear guard with Raizer and its card name attack, Counterblast 2 and rest this unit, stand this unit and that unit. Again, more overcosted bullshit. Why do I have to pay Counterblast 2 to stand a unit and a thematic rest and stand? Well, it's meant to be like a pickup. You Counterblast 2, you stand him after you rest him, so they both sit down and they stand up together. It's kind of like a whole Gundam kind of thing. But it is Counterblast 2, that is kind of expensive, but it is not once per turn, right? I mean, there's no way you're using Perfect Raizer more than once, but for Mega Flares, you can see, as long as it's just your Raizer and its rear guard attack. So you can theoretically, if you have a lot of extra Counterblast, you can use it to spam and stand sit, which is nice. But the reason why you would want to sink so much Counterblast away just for a quick restand, you'll see why later in the deck. But Mega Flare's main cost and his main kick comes from his second skill. At the end of the battle, that this unit, as in Mega Flare, attacks. If you have no standing front or rear guards, Counterblast 1, choose a grade 2 Raizer and its card name from your soul, yourself, and write it as stand. At the end of that turn, choose a grade 3 with Raizer and its card name from your soul, and write it as rest. So you can theoretically go into you can go into Perfect Raizer if you really wanted to, but theoretically, you just go straight back to Mega Flare, so you loop it, and you choose a grade 2 Raizer from your soul. Now notice there is no restriction on grade, in terms of your opponent's grade. There is no restriction mentioned on drives, like there is no drive reduction at all, and there's no even restriction on the XL. A lot of you who have played competitive V will know decks like Dragonic Vanquisher, where they actually have a lock on the number of XL you gain. You notice there is none. There is no lock. Like, you are supposed to actually gain an XL through the rewrite. So, despite the fact that for years people have cried, kill Percival, Nova's had this same mechanic and somehow no one thought we should stop them. I don't know, man. I don't know. I've released my V Mega Flare Dual Flare deck profile like 3 years ago. Link in description. And yet, from now till then, no one has tried to stop or break this deck. Even though this deck, I know, has appeared like once or twice in a BRO, but frankly, that's all it really did, right? Like, not much. But I still enjoy it. I still really love this deck. Thematically, it's amazing. Skill-wise, it's really fun. And you may be wondering, what grade 2 target do I want to ride? Well, for our grade 2s, we play 4 copies of Ultimate Raizer Dual Flare. So he's the counterpart to Mega Flare, in case you couldn't really pick up the drift. But we also have other cards as well. We still play 4 copies of High Powered Raizer Custom, and my surprise tech pick for all of you, which is Giant Elephant Battler Pound Musk. No affiliation to the Dragon Tree, okay? But we'll cover him later. So, Mr. High Powered Raizer Custom is also from the very first set of V. I want to see his age badly, but I'm not too sure about that. When placed on the Vanguard Raider circle, you may call a Battle Raizer from your soul in the same column. Now, Battle Raizer is just a vanilla, it's just a 6k, so 9 plus 6 is 15. So it is 15k of a column, which is not that great, but to be fair, it is a +1 if you want to get political about it. But at the same time, it does also really help you that it's a 15k column, on turn 2, which means if your opponent's playing, if you're going first, or even if you're going second, if your opponent's grade 2 or grade 1, like that's still an 8 or 10k, right? You're threatening them with 15k center column. That's still pretty good. And Bell Raizer has another use that we will go into that later on why a grade 0 on the board is very important. But assuming you don't want to get to that, there's another skill. High Powered Raizer Custom. When this unit attack hits a Vanguard, Car +1, put a Bell Raizer from your rearguard into your soul to stand one of your other rearguards. So if his attack hits on VOR, you instantly get a free restand by surrendering your Bell Raizer back to the void. And it's pretty good. It's not as bad. First of all, it's drawn by Daisuke Izuka. Thank you so much. Secondly, it is a good restand skill, although power is to be questioned. I mean, I would like it to gain power by itself, but this is a 2018 card. It's a card from 2018. How many of you were playing back in 2018? Leave me a comment. I'd love to talk to you. But if you want to talk about cards that can gain power, we have the Indomitable Dual Flare. And he's the Legion mate of Mega Flare. He's the guy you're supposed to ride, by the way, of Mega Flare. So if you are thinking, what do I ride off Mega Flare? If you say high power, you are not playing this deck right, okay? That's not how this deck works. I'm very sorry. You are supposed to go into Dual Flare. Now, what does Dual Flare do? During your turn, if you have no standing front or rear guards, wow, I wonder why they have the same clause. This unit gains 3000 power for each of your opponent's grades of their Vanguard. And that's on VOR as well, which means on turn 2, this guy gains 6000 power for free. Who else gains 6000 power for free as a grade 2? Why do Raizers have such a good grade 2 game? I don't know. How much more hidden shit does V have? Like, we have grade 2s in V that can grade 2 game to this extent? God. But it does not end there. Because at the end of the battle, this unit attacks on the rearguard circle, move this unit to the soul, choose one of your vanguards, it gains 5000 power to the end of the turn. If you have no face-up cards in your damage zone, counter charge 1. A lot of things with Dual Flare I have to mention. Dual Flare has 0 name locks at all. You can play this in Victor, you can play this in Beast Deity, you can play this in, Blau, you can play this in any deck. There is 0 name restriction. If you even wanted to put this into a premium Nova Grappler suit to grade 2 game or to do whatever, you can. And he is a counter charger for some reason, as long as you no face out cards at damage zone, at the end of the battle he attacks. But that's still really busted now more than ever. Somehow, my respect for Dual Flare has spiked tremendously upon playing him once again. It's just that good. And he moves himself into the soul, which is how you actually access Mega Flare. So you move into soul and then you pop over. And having no cards face up in the damage zone is also what Mega Flare's first skills for. You keep sinking your counter blast into counter blast 2, counter blast 2, counter blast 2. Well, you can use the Dual Flare, counter charge, and then you get the last skill online. Again, it's pretty wonky, but it still works no matter what you say. It's still a pretty consistent multi-attack. And giving Mega Flare an additional 5000 power means he's about 17,000 power at minimum. So he hops over a lot of stuff. Not only that though, you can also use this with Perfect Raizer. Although you do lose the Dual Flare's multi-attacking stand target, you do actually give him an additional 5000 power and a counter charge, which God knows this man needs. Because, he's pretty bad. But get out of the way, and there's still one more method to counter charge. We'll get to that later. But we still have one more card we want to cover, and that is Giant Elephant Battler Power Mask. When your unit stands by your card's ability, you may have this unit and one of your vanguards gains 10,000 power until the end of the turn. Now this is specifically meant for Perfect Raizer, because Perfect Raizer can restand 2 of your front row rear guards, so you stand Power Mask. When Power Mask restands, he gives himself 10k, he gives Perfect Raizer 10k. Perfection! I don't want to curse, but this is fucking perfection. Like, this solves all the power issues of this deck. Even if you don't get your hands on the Dual Flare, or if you just don't use the Dual Flare skill to move him to the soul, and just keep him as a restanding target, if you have this and this as a restanding target, this guy is easily 9 plus 3, 6, 9, 18,000 power himself, and this guy is 19,000 power by himself. Not only that, you just gave your Perfect Raizer an additional 10,000 power, which means he's 22,000 power. And that's really good for a finishing move. This is how the deck comes together for Perfect Raizer to be able to put in a great amount of finishes. But the rest of the advantage game for this deck still comes from you looping your Mega Flare. Your Mega Flare goes into a Dual Flare, and then you go back into your Mega Flare, and your Dual Flare, your Mega Flare, and your Dual Flare, and you can stall the game out pretty well. It's a very cheap resource engine because it's Counter Blast 1 and then it's Counter Charge 1. And this deck has multiple routes of counter charge, which we'll go into later. So you can actually just stall the game as long as possible with a large amount of XL draw, because don't forget, every time you ride, you get an imaginary give XL, right? So that's an additional draw. So basically, you have a pot of greed walking every turn at the end of the turn, and you can loop multi-attackers and pretty good drive checks at that. And then, when you finally feel like killing your opponent, you just drop Perfect Raizer whenever you want, and even if he ends up in your soul, you can just rewrite him from the skill Mega Flare, which there is blind soul charge in his deck, by the way. And to top it all off, right through the roof, Power Mask. And that is the level of insanity we are dealing with this deck. This deck is literally a stall deck until you crush their head. Again though, this deck isn't very good at stalling against, the best deck in format, aka Gurgit and Luard. But against most decks, I would say this has a really fun and good output of damage as well as card draw. For our grade 1s, we play a very wide pool, so you will need to tolerate me for a bit. We play 4 copies of Screaming and Dancing Announcer Shout still. We play 4 copies of Raptorial Raizer. We play 3 copies of Arashid. And then we play 2 copies of Trance Raizer. So let's get into that real quick. Trance Raizer is a Raizer name, and he's also from the first set. Wow, we are really going back to the past today. When this unit boosts, Soul Blast 2, Counter Charge 1, and if this attack is targeting a Vanguard, this unit gains 3000 power, which, it should be targeting a Vanguard. You're playing Vanguard, right? So it's an 11k booster for Counter Charge 1. That's not bad, and it only costs Soul Blast 2. And we have a lot of Soul in this deck. Like, a lot. I wish I could explain it to you. We have a lot. Our Soul Engine is very strong. And that's also because of the Raizers also having a Soul Engine. Case in point is Raptorial Raizer. Raptorial Raizer is one of those cards that, when they announced his skill, people were like, what the fuck is this for? But then as this went on and on, we were like, wait, this is just broken, isn't it? When his unit is placed on the Vanguard circle, choose a Bell Raizer from your soul and call it to the rearguard. As long as you ride it, you just get a free 6k. Wow. Amazing. So, as you can see here, there are multiple cards in this deck. They are meant to call out Battle Raizer. And why are we calling Battle Raizer out? What's the point of having a grade 0-6k on the board? Well, it's not for a Flame G finisher, it's actually for something a lot worse. Counter Blast 1 and move a rearguard into your soul. Search your deck for up to 1 card with Raizer in its card name, with a name and with a grade equal to the card put into the soul for this card's cost +1. It's a Raizer jump. It's like Time Leap, but Raizer. It's a Raizer leap. So I choose any rearguard on the board, on my field of course. I move into the soul, I search my deck for a card with +1 grade of it, and it's a Raizer, and I just recall it. So your grade 0s can change into your extra copies of Raptorial Raizer. Yes, you can actually search for Raptorial Raizer. You can also search for just now's Trance Raizer, which means that, no matter what, you will always get access to this guy's 11k. And that's only if you start off with Bell Raizer. You can change any one of your extra grade 2s on the grade 1s on the board into additional Mega Flares or even Bell Raizer. Bell Raizer can call out this guy, and you repeat the loop again. You're starting to see the borderline insanity that this deck can cook up if, you're allowed to cook. Because Raptorial Raizer is literally the head chef here. He can turn your whole board into on-demand Raizers, which is something I don't think any archetype in V Novas, let alone V, has. So, Raptorial Raizer, definitely a 4-off, you need to play. And Raptorial Raizer is so good now, we even cut down our grade 3 searcher. This is of course Arashid. He's our V Nova Grappler searcher. When placed from hand on Vanguard Regular Circle, top 5 cards, add 1 grade 3 from them, put it into your hand, and then if you add 1, discard 1. It's the same thing. And if one of your units restands during the turn, this unit gains 5. Again, very basic V starter. Sorry, not V starter. V searcher. I have the original print, which cost me a lot of money, but they've been reprinted a million times. I don't think it matters anymore. But you can play this at a 4-off if you want. I just don't have deck space for it, but you can play this 3 to 4-off. And that's also because I'm playing Screaming and Dancing Announcer Shout at 4. Shout is an essay on a card, and he's very weird. A lot of people don't like him, but frankly, I'm really in love with what Shout does for his deck. Rest this unit, and you and your opponent reveal the top card of your decks. Whoever has the higher grade adds it to the hand. Whoever has the lower grade, soul charge it. And if the grades are the same, you both add it to hand. You'll be wondering, why am I handing my opponent free advantage? Like, what is the point? Firstly, most of your deck is grade 2s. So you have a higher chance of blasting off than them and putting their defensive triggers into soul. Secondly, even if you give your opponent a free advantage, you get a soul charge. And the soul charge is really good for this deck. Because as we've proven just now, we have cards like, we have cards like Perfect Raizer, and we also need to put cards like Raizers into the soul for various effects. So actually, soul charging is much more beneficial than you would imagine. It actually gives you a very nice resource loop. Worst case scenario is, of course, your opponent pluses and, gets the perfect out, but, we are gambling. And if you don't like Shout on the board anymore, because you use Shout in the early game, right, to thin the deck and go through, but if you have too many Shouts or you just don't like him, use Perfect Raizer, put a DNA surgery on Shout, and just change him into a dual flare, and generally your game is back on track. And last but not least, for grade zeros, we are still playing Bell Raizer. I mean, surprise, I guess. But the rest of our grade zeros are very simple. They're all just triggers. Oh no, my bad. We also have 4 Hue Guards, right? So we are playing 8 crits for this deck because it is a restanding Vanguard and Rearguard deck. 4 Hue Guards, because for Hue Guards, we actually do want to stay at low damage for the early game, right? We actually want to compete in the early game and stay at low damage, and that's why we have the Hue Guards. They generally help you for that purpose, and then we play 4 Perfect Guards. Just for draw PGs, because, we still need pieces. And that wraps up my I almost said Raptors. Raizers deck profile for Ultimates and Perfects together in 2024. I am still really glad that I even get the chance to cover a deck like this. I'm still glad that you guys actually want to see V content. I half expected that no one would watch these anymore, but the fact that you guys are still watching it tells me that it's clear an audience, and I'm happy to talk about it. Raizers are definitely one of those decks that has endeared with me for a long time since my youth, and I'm still playing it till today. And frankly, if you like V, and if you want a cheap fun deck, I certainly 100% recommend this. It's not only meme as hell, because you're playing one of the worst bosses in the history, but you have a really good advantage engine that's pretty consistent. Again though, this is not meant to tackle a top deck. I don't know if I can stress that hard enough, but it's still pretty consistent and can still play pretty well at a normal / local-ish level if your locals are quite casual. But that being said though, I've really enjoyed playing this, and I look forward to see what I'm covering for V next month if this video does well. But, that's assuming you guys still want more V. If this video completely crashes, then there is no more. But we'll see how it does. I think so far V is in a pretty interesting spot with tri-regulation. Although a lot of the decks seem to congregate around the same few, I do feel pretty hopeful though that people still want to try and experiment V, and we have a chance for a V call very soon. There is a chance for it later on in strategy presentation, so I'm still waiting for that. But I could be completely wrong, and we'll see how that goes as well. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.